Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Trone. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to join this special order on behalf of the late Senator Paul Sarbanes. I want to just thank John Sarbanes, our distinguished colleague from Maryland, for being here, for accepting our joint and individual condolences over the last several days, and for being so very, very much like his father. I also want to extend that same thanks to Michael Sarbanes and to their sister Janet and to the larger Sarbanes family of in-laws, many of whom we have not met, all of whom share in this hour of this overwhelming sense of loss. And it is loss, both for the family and, obviously, I hope we would agree, for the entire nation, regardless of what side of that aisle that we sit or stand on. I first came to know, if I may use that term, Paul Sarbanes in May of 1974, when, as a student of political science, I devoured every opportunity I could to watch political proceedings. And I remember the assignment that we got in that May to make sure that we watched, understood, and learned from what was then the impending impeachment proceedings against Richard Milhouse Nixon. So on a small fuzzy TV, I got introduced to Paul Sarbanes. And along with him, I got introduced that month to Peter Rodino of New Jersey, the chair of the Judiciary Committee, and to Larry Hogan Sr., the only Republican to vote for all articles of impeachment. I was just struck by the fact that no matter how much I had heard or believed or given into the fact that politics was just posturing and that politicians would say anything and do anything in order to secure a vote, I saw three men that day, led by Paul Sarbanes, who exemplified, to me at least, the highest ideals of moral character that I had seen coming out of Washington or any other chamber, because of the way they conducted themselves, but more importantly, because of the principles that they held on to, that in many instances could in fact and might indeed cost them votes, but they believed nonetheless that the sacred oath of office that we all took when we came to this chamber or when others have gone to the Senate must be something that we abide by. And so I got a special sense of pride when I realized that not only was this Paul Sarbanes, young, dashing young man who was absolutely brilliant on details, not only was he saying and doing and representing all of us, I thought, in the best way possible, he was also from the state of Maryland, which gave me extra pride and extra pause, because I said to myself, if I were to ever be elected to the office, that's the standard that I should subscribe to. That's the standard that I should emulate. And that's the standard that I think all of us benefit from, a standard bequeathed by Paul Sarbanes and others that is just as important today as it was that hot day in May of 1974. And so while the House has a sense of loss because of Paul's time here and his work with so many of us, because the Senate has that same sense of loss, I would dare suggest that in Annapolis, Maryland, that the state legislature feels that same way for the many days that he walked those halls and the many bills that he helped to usher through them. We all think about Sarbanes-Oxley, But Paul Sarbanes, lest it ever be misunderstood, fought like crazy to expand affordable housing and to stabilize Social Security and Medicaid trust funds and Medicare trust funds. He fought, as John mentioned earlier, for the little things that would escape many of us, that we might feel that we're too big or too proud to do. Just the notion of making sure that people got the same mail delivery on a block who happened to be Black and who happened to be citizens. So there are a lot of things that can and will be said, I think, and I know about Paul and his life and what he stood for and what he believed in. Let me say a couple of others as I yield back. Paul Sarbanes had a good heart. He loved Christine. Whenever I saw him, I saw her. And I said to him once, Paul, isn't Christine tired of you dragging her out to this dinner and to this event and to this speaking engagement? He said, no, she's actually dragging me out because there are some times when I don't want to go out. But he had a very, very good heart, and they represented just the best of matrimony. I sent a text to John an hour after I learned of the passing of his dad, and I said, among other things, John, you and your sisters won the parents' sweepstakes. You just had great parents, great role models who are great Americans. So Shakespeare said of that kind of good heart long, long ago, and something that he took to pen with, when he said that a good heart is like the sun and the moon, for it shines bright. It never changes because it keeps its course. Paul Sarbanes kept his course. He was unawed by opinion, unseduced by flattery, and undismayed by disaster. He instinctively knew that America was not like a blanket. One size, one shape, one texture, or one color. But rather and instead, he realized that the America that we all love is so much more like a quilt. Different shapes, different sizes, different textures, and different colors, all woven and held together by a single precious thread of democracy. Paul has taught us so much, and as students who followed him, worked with him, believed with him, loved him, and now miss him, we could never, ever be more thankful. With that, Mr. Trone and Mr. Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time.